I am more in love with you now than ever, and I want you more." So saying, he lay down on the bed, and she came to him. While they lay there together, Menelaus was striding up and down like a wild beast, looking everywhere for Alexandros. But no one could show him a glimpse of Alexandros among the Trojans or their allies. Not for love. They were not going to hide him if they did see him, for they all hated him like Black Death. At last my lord Agamemnon said before them all, "Take notice, Trojans and Dardanians and allied nations. Victory lies with Menelaus, as you see. Your duty is then to hand over Helen and all her wealth, and pay whatever compensation is right and proper, such as may be noised abroad in generations to come." And all the Achaeans raised a cheer. Book 4. The first battle between Trojans and Achaeans. The gods were all in their places on the golden floor, sitting with Zeus in conclave. Hebe went round with the nectar, and they pledged one another with their golden goblets, while they watched what was going on before Troy. Suddenly Zeus thought he would tease Hera a little, and he said in a mocking tone to draw her, "Two of our august company are allies of Menelaus. I mean Hera, who backs Argos, of course, and our Boeotian guardian Athena. But here they are both keeping out of the way and watching the show with great enjoyment. And there is the enemy, there is Aphrodite, always beside him, all smiles, keeping off the shots. Look, there, now, she has just saved him when he thought he was a dead man. But there's no doubt victory goes to Menelaus. Let us consider what is to be done. Shall we make them begin the war again and fight it out, or shall we make them friends? If that is good and pleasing in the sight of all, the city of Priam may still remain inhabited, and Menelaus can take his Helen back to Argos." Athena and Hera were close together, plotting trouble for Troy. When he said this, they were both furious and grunted something. Athena held her tongue, but Hera could not find room for all the fury inside her, and she cried out, "Oh, you dreadful creature, what a thing to say! How can you wish me to waste all my trouble for nothing? How I sweated and sweated! All my drudgery thrown away, the horses tired out with collecting the people to destroy Priam and his sons. Go on, do as you like, but let me tell you, we do not all agree." Zeus Cloud-Gatherer was angry himself now. He said, "Oh, you amazing creature! What harm has Priam or Priam's sons done to you, that you never cease trying to make a wilderness of the noble city? Go through the gates, go into the fortress, munch up Priam raw with Priam's sons and all his people, and then perhaps you could cure that fury of yours. Very well, do as you please. I have my fears that this quarrel may leave a bitter grudge between us. But one thing I tell you, and don't forget it, if I ever want to destroy some city where you have friends of yours, do not try to thwart my vengeance, but leave me alone. I will not be the only one to say yes when I wanted to say no. For of all the cities of mortal men which are built under the stars of heaven, I have always loved best sacred Ilios, and King Priam and the people of that fine old soldier king. My altar there never lacked public feast, or the savor of burnt offering and drink offering, which is our solemn rite." His queen opened her great eyes wide and said, "I tell you, there are 3 cities which I love best, Argos and Sparta and the broad seats of Mycenae. Sack them all whenever you take a dislike to them. I tell you, I do not defend them or care about them, for even if I grudge it and ask you to spare them, what is the use of my grudging? You are much stronger than I am. Still, I have my rights too. My trouble ought not to go for nothing, since I am a god too, of the same birth as yourself, eldest daughter of crook-minded Kronos, eldest and most honorable, both by birth and because I am called your wife, and you are lord of the immortals. Come then, let us give way to each other, I to you and you to me, that all the others will go with us. But now be quick, and send down Athena to the battlefield. Let her contrive somehow to get the Trojans to break the oath and attack those overproud Achaeans before the others can. Zeus did not refuse. He told Athena in plain words what he wanted. Look sharp. Go right into the battle and contrive somehow or other to get these Trojans to break their oath and attack before the others can. Athena was only too glad to do it, and shot down from the peaks of Olympus, like a blazing star which the Lord of Heaven shoots forth, bright and scattering sparks all around, to be a portent for sailors or for some great army of men, so Pallas Athena shot down to earth and leapt into the throng, to the amazement of Trojans and Achaeans both. You might have heard one man say to another, "This means more battles and hard fighting," or else, "Here is friendship set up between us by Zeus, the dispenser of war." Athena now took the form of a Trojan, the doughty warrior Laodocus, Antenor's son, and went about searching for Pandarus. She found him standing among the ranks of targeteers who had marched with him from Aesopus river, and she spoke to him plainly. "Will you take my advice and show your good skill? Then dare to have a quick shot at Menelaus. This will give you great credit, and all the Trojans will thank you, most of all Prince Alexandros. He will be the first to heap rewards upon you if he sees that mighty man of war, King Menelaus, brought down by your arrow and laid out on a funeral pyre. Come along, have a shot at Menelaus, and offer your vow to Apollo Lysagenes, prince of archers, that you will make a solemn sacrifice of firstling lambs when you return home to the sacred city of Iliad." He let himself be persuaded. Poor fool. And at once he stripped his bow. This was a bow made from the polished horns of a wild ibex, which he had once caught while out hunting. He had shot it through the chest as it came from behind a rock, and knocked it back upon the rock. The two horns measured 16 hands from the head. A skillful horner had worked it and fitted the pieces together, polished them up, and put a gold hook on the top. Pandarus steadied the end on the ground and strung the bow, then laid it down carefully, while his friends held their shields before him, for fear that the Achaeans might get up to their feet before Menelaus was hit. Then he stripped off the quiver lid and chose a feathered arrow which had never been shot, a carrier of black pains indeed. Without delay he fitted the arrow to the string, and made his vow to Apollo Lysagenes, prince of archers, that he would offer a solemn sacrifice of firstling lambs when he returned home to the sacred city of Iliad. He took fast hold of the string and the notches together, and drew back the string to his breast, the iron point to the bow. So he drew it into a great round. Clang went the bow, jing went the string, out leapt the arrow, and flew sharp and fast, fierce to strike. But the immortal gods did not forget you, Menelaus, and Athena first and foremost stood before you and saved you from the arrow's point. She just swept it away from the flesh, as a mother sweeps away a fly from her sleeping child. And she made it go straight where the golden buckles of the belt were joined, and the corselet was folded over. The arrow struck right on the buckle, Through the belt it drove, through the corselet, and the loin piece which he wore to protect his flesh from a thrust, his last and chief defense, it went through that also. And the arrow pierced his skin, so that red blood ran down from the wound over his thighs and shins and ankles. The red blood on his fine white skin was like vermilion on ivory, when some clever craftswoman, Carian or Maeonian, makes a cheek piece for horses. See it stored in a treasure chamber. Many a horseman would love to use it, but the treasure lies waiting for a king to make the horse fine and the driver proud. My lord King Agamemnon shuddered when he saw the red blood running out of the wound. Menelaus himself shuddered. But when he noticed that barbs and binding were outside, he recovered his spirits again. Agamemnon groaned deep as he caught his brother by the hand, and the men groaned. Then he said, "Dear brother, it was death for you when I swore that oath and put you in front of the fight as our champion. For the enemy have shot you and trampled their oath underfoot. But an oath is not an empty form, nor is the blood of lambs and drink offerings and hands clasped in which we put our trust. For even if the Olympian does not act at once, he will act at last, and a heavy price men have to pay. Their own heads, their own wives, and their children. I know full well in my heart of hearts that a day shall come when sacred Troy shall perish, and the people of Priam, the mighty king, when Zeus Cronades, enthroned on high in the heavens, himself will shake his black mantle over them in wrath for this deceit. This indeed shall be, and shall not fail. But you will bring dreadful pain upon me, Menelaus, if you die now and fill up your count of days. In deep disgrace I should return to Argos, for our people would at once remember their native land, and we should leave to Priam and his Trojans their boast, our Argive Helen. But your bones would lie in the enemy's land, and rot there with your work undone. The Trojans would stamp in triumph on the tomb of Menelaus, and cry aloud, "I wish Agamemnon the same good luck against his other enemies as he has had here with his contemptible army. Just look now, he has sailed away with empty ships and left brave Menelaus behind." But if that should ever come true, may the earth open and swallow me up. Menelaus made light of it and said, "Take courage, and don't alarm the men. It is not a mortal wound. The belt saved me first, and then my kilt underneath, and the good armorer's work of the loin-piece." Agamemnon answered, "God grant it, my dear man. But we must see to this wound. The surgeon shall feel it and put some stuff in to ease the pain." Then he called out, "Talthybius, bring Machaon here as quick as you can. You know the fellow, Asclepius' son, the surgeon, and a good one too. Let him see to King Menelaus. Someone has shot him with an arrow, some Trojan or some Lycian it will be. They are good archers, and it was a fine shot, I must say, but bad luck for us." Talthybius went off at once, looking everywhere in the lines for Machaon. At last he found him standing among his own targeteers, the men from Tricca. Talthybius came up and told him plainly what had happened. "Quick, Asclepius, King Agamemnon wants you to have a look at our commander Menelaus. Someone has shot him with an arrow, a Trojan, or some good Lycian archer. He says it was a fine shot, but bad luck for us." Machaon was alarmed, and together they made their way through the lines. Soon they reached the place where the wounded man stood with a crowd of nobles round him. Machaon pulled out the arrow, and the barbs broke in the belt as he pulled it back. Then he loosened the belt and the kilt and the loin-piece underneath. He found the wound and sucked out the blood and put on a plaster of soothing drugs. These were drugs which dear old Chiron had given to his father, and he knew them well. While they were attending to Menelaus, the Trojans began to come on under arms, and so the Achaeans armed themselves and prepared for battle. Then you would not see Agamemnon napping or shirking or unready to fight. No, he was all eagerness for battle and glory. He left car and snorting horses in charge of his man Eurymedon, and ordered him strictly to keep them at hand until he should want to rest from his labors. Then he marched through the ranks on foot to give his orders. If he found the men brisk and lively, he encouraged them with a few words. "Stick to it, men! To it with all your might! Liars will not have Father Zeus to help them. Those who began it, those who broke their solemn oath, shall be a dainty meal for the vultures, and we will take their city and carry off their wives and children in shiploads." But if he found any slack and cursing the war, he rated them roughly. "Call yourselves fighting men, long-distance champions with the bow is what I call you. A disgrace to the army. Have you no shame? Why do you stand there like a herd of deer, tired with running about all over the place, dazed and helpless? Yes, you stand there dazed and afraid to fight. Perhaps you are waiting till the enemy come as far as your ships. Fine ships, aren't they, all along the shore? You want to see whether God will spread his hand over you." So he went through the army, giving his orders to all. By and by he came to the Cretans, who were arming under their captain Idomeneus. He was in the front rank, furious as a wild boar. Meriones was speeding up the rear. This was a pleasant sight to the king, and he said in a friendly tone, "Idomeneus, you are the man for me, first at a feast and first in the field. Here you are, hard at work, and what when the big men have a banquet and bring out the best company wine to fill the flowing bowl? The others drink what is given them, but you always have a full bumper by your side, as I do, and as much as you like to drink. Now then, hey for battle, and keep up your reputation." Idomeneus answered, "Sir, I will not fail you. I am your loyal servant, as I promised and gave my pledge to be. But you should speed up the others, and let us get to fighting as soon as we can, for the Trojans have broken their oath. Death and disaster shall be their lot, because they began it by breaking that oath." Agamemnon left him well satisfied. And next he came upon great Iliás and his little namesake, who were arming themselves amid a cloud of footmen. Thick black clumps of sturdy yonkers moved towards the battle, bristling with spears and shields, like some heavy cloud blown over the deep by the west wind. The goatherd sees it afar from his watching place, blacker than pitch over the deep as the whirlwind drives, and he shudders and guides his herd into a cave. My lord Agamemnon was glad to see this sight, and he told them what he thought in plain words. "You need no pressing from me, you doughty pair of captains. That you do for yourselves, and on your people go. Oh, Father Zeus, Apollo, Athena, I wish all the others had the same temper. Then King Priam's castle would soon bow down its head, and we should sack it and lay it waste with our hands." He passed on to Nestor, and found him among his Pelions, giving orders in that sonorous voice, placing his men and sending them out under his captains, Pelagon and Alastor, Chromius and Haemon and Prince Bias. In front he put the cars with horses and drivers, behind them the footmen, in formidable array like a wall, with the cowards in the middle so that they would have to fight whether they liked it or not. He was giving his orders first to the men in the chariots to keep their horses in hand and not to go rattling about in the melee. "Don't try to show off your driving and your courage. No one is to dash out in front and fight by himself. No one is to move to the rear. Keep your line, or you'll only be the weaker. But if anyone comes within reach of an enemy car, try a spear thrust. That's the way to fight. Many a strong city has been taken by those tactics." The old man had seen war before, and he knew all about it. Agamemnon was glad, and he told him plainly how he felt. "You may be old, sir, but I only wish your knees were as nimble and your strength as firm as the temper in that heart of yours." "Ah, well, such is life. Old age is old age. I only wish others were old and you were young." The old hero loved a good horse, and he answered, "Ah, your grace, I do wish indeed I were now as young as I was when I killed Ereuthalion. Well, the gods do not give us everything at the same time. If I was young then, I am old now. Never mind, I will be with the horses and tell these people what to do. Words are the privilege of an old man. Spearing with spears is the young men's work. They have more youth and more strength than I have." Agamemnon passed on in great contentment. He found Menestheus standing among his warlike Athenians. Not far off was Odysseus and the Cephallenian division. These were no weaklings, but they had not heard the call to arms, for the opposing armies had only just begun to move, and they stood waiting until some other battalion should come up and give them a lead. But Agamemnon rated them soundly and left no mistake as to his feelings. "You, Menestheus, what would your royal father say to see you here? And you, the master of mischievous tricks, what cunning scheme is hidden in your mind? Why do you skulk in the rear and wait for a lead? You ought to be standing right in front and facing the fire. You are always first to hear my invitation whenever we give a dinner to the great men. Then you are pleased to eat your roast beef and to drink your nice wine at your ease. Now you would be pleased to see a dozen battalions go out before you to the fight." Odysseus frowned and replied, "What a thing to say, Prince! Bite it back and let it stay behind your teeth. Do you say we are slack when our people go out to battle? You shall see for yourself if you like. And if such matters interest you, you shall see the father of Telemachus fighting in the enemy's front line. What you say is so much wind." Agamemnon smiled when he saw him angry, and took back his words. No, Odysseus Laertiades, I know the master of stratagems. You do not want my scolding or ordering. I know the loyalty of your heart, for we are of one mind, you and I. Come along, we will make it all right by and by. If any harm has been said, let us forget it, for God's sake." He passed on, and the next he found was Tydeus, son proud Diomedes, standing amongst his chariots and horses, with Sthenelus, Capaneus' son, beside him. Agamemnon rated him too in plain language. "What pity to find you skulking here, goggling your eyes at the battlefield. What would your noble father have said? It was not your father's way to skulk. He used to be the first at the enemy by a long way, as they say who saw him about the business. I never met him myself, never saw him, but they say he had no equal. Once, indeed, he came to Mycenae. Not in war. He came as a guest with Prince Polynices to enlist men, for they were besieging the sacred walls of Thebes. They begged hard for volunteers, and the people were ready to go, but Zeus changed their minds by showing unfavorable signs. So the envoys went away and got as far as the river Asopus. There they waited in the reeds and grass while Tydeus went on a parley to Thebes. He found a party of the Cadmeans feasting in the house of Eteocles. There was Tydeus alone among a host of Cadmeans, a stranger. But he feared nothing. He challenged them to trials of strength and beat them all easily by the help of Athena. Then the Cadmeans were enraged and laid an ambush for him on his way home. 40 lads with 2 leaders, Maon, Haemon's son, and Polyphontes, the son of Autophonus. Tydeus made an end of these also. He killed them, all but one, whom he sent back. Maon was the man, and he let him go in obedience to omens from heaven. Such a man was Aetolian Titus, but his son is not so good on the battlefield, although he is a better talker. Diomedes made no answer, for he respected the king's reproof. But Sthenelus spoke out, "My lord, do not say what is false when you know the truth. We are better men than our fathers, and we are proud of it. We took the fortress of seven-gate Thebes, although we had a weaker force against a stronger wall, because we trusted in the help of Zeus and omens from the gods above. But our fathers perished through their own reckless folly, so please don't put them equal to us."